Miss Kelly Price, my friend.
Yes.
Welcome to VladTV.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so honored that you are allowing me to do this interview with you.
I wouldn't have done it any other way. Sorry, Vlad.
And I hope that I learn some new stuff. I know I will.
Yeah, I think you will.
You know?
Yeah.
So let's get right to it. First of all, people need to know you an East Coast girl.
I am.
Okay? Was born in... What, Rockaway, Queens?
I was born on the south side of Jamaica. I'm a south side girl.
Jamaica, Queens?
Jamaica, Queens, and raised between South Jamaica and Far Rockaway.
What's the difference? What's the difference between Rockaway and
So Rockaway is a peninsula, and once upon a life, many decades ago, was privately owned by very wealthy families in New York who sold it back to the city, and it's where they built apartments out there and shipped all the poor people when they wanted to get rid of them. So it used to be it was like Coney Island, but it's literally on the tip of where Queens and Long Island meet.
Does it still exist?
It does still exist. It has not been, they never went back in there after Hurricane Sandy and fixed it. A lot of it was destroyed again. A lot of it is abandoned. They're trying to clean it up. I haven't been back home in a while, but I know that there's like a whole initiative trying to clean it up. But they're getting ready to do to Far Rockaway what they did to Brooklyn.
Would you ever go back to Rockaway and walk around like Jay-Z did when he went back to Marcy?
I would. Far Rockaway, as dangerous as it was probably more dangerous than any part of Brooklyn that you could have gone to when I was growing up. The South Bronx, all of it. It was isolated and kind of off to itself. So a lot of times people didn't know about it, but if you knew about it, you knew.
And you weren't in a plush mansion in Rockaway. You was in the Jacks.
No, I was in the projects. Oh yeah.
Edgemere?
I was in Edgemere projects. When people find out I'm from Edgemere, they're like, no. I'm like, yes, this is called evolution.
For real. Now, what would you say was the hardest part of growing up in the projects?
Oh.
Like, okay, you have siblings?
I have, yeah. So I only have one living sibling now. I lost my baby sister. So I think the hardest part of growing up in the projects really was, because it's weird, I have fond memories as well, because it was still a level of community, and people say, there were rules. You didn't mess with kids, you didn't mess with old people. And it was the boys that ran the block that actually looked out for me and my sisters. They knew we were church girls. We were in a single parent home. They knew we were not fighters. And so they looked out for us. They made sure nobody bothered us. If you touched one of us, you had a problem with the boys that ran the block. They really,
the boys in the hood is always hard.
So I have fond memories of Edgemere. What was hard about being in Edgemere was that it was so impoverished. I went to sleep every night to the soundtrack of either gunshots or hearing somebody get beat. You know what I mean? And so at a very early age, that's what I heard a lot of. So that probably was the most difficult part. We knew we were poor. We knew we were broke. We made it work. Everybody else that lived in there was poor and broke too. So.
And you said you were church kid. What's your uncle? Who was a bishop?
My grandfather.
Yeah. Grandfather.
Yes, my grandfather. That's my God. Anybody that knows me, and if they ever looked at my social media, they lived on my social media. I love those two old people.
Yeah.
And they checked out of here one behind the other. I begged my grandmother not to leave last year when she got COVID. And she hung around and literally a year later contracted COVID again and decided that she was going to be with her husband because he left at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, I see. Isn't that something how couples, in those days, they can be married 40, 50 years.
70
one
plus
go,
for them.
And one go, the other one's out.
Yeah.
That's love, I guess. I don't want to love nobody like that, though. Okay. So your mama's name was Claudia. And she was a musical director at the church, correct?
Yeah, so musical director's a fancy name. I tell people that's a very, very fancy title. They were not called music directors when my mother was directing the choir at her dad's church. She started directing the choir at 11 years old. She played and she sang, and she was directing choirs in his church at 11 years old.
Why is it that kids like PKs and stuff like that have such a crazy reputation?
I can tell you exactly why. Yeah. I'm not going to even let you finish it.
Right.
I think what people need to understand about PKs, and that's not just preachers' kids. Think about politicians' kids, police officers' kids. They're all PKs, right?
Yeah.
Their parents are so busy taking care of everybody else, and this is the truth, that a lot of times they don't have time to really pay attention to and they might not want to admit it, but that's the real reason why. My grandfather was the father to, kids in the church who didn't have a father. And he was the neighborhood pastor. Like, everybody knew him. If you want to get baptized, he'd baptize you. You want to get married, he'd marry you. A lot of pastors won't bury you if you're not a member of the church or if somebody in your family isn't. That wasn't my grandfather. He was the neighborhood pastor. He walked the streets of Southside Jamaica. He fed the community. And so a lot of times when you have that much on your plate, it's hard. And you just assume, my kids know better, they're going to do whatever. But a lot of times it's just trying to get attention because, they're so busy, taking care of this person's troubled child. They got in trouble. He's going to see this one in jail, going to see that one.
Kids, what they're going through.
And so PKs tend to act out. But I tell people, I don't think preachers' kids are worse than anybody else's kids. I think we're exactly the same. We do the exact same things that other kids do. People just hold us to a higher standard because our daddy's a pastor.
Yeah. And so you started singing, of course, like a lot of great singers started singing 6 years old in the church.
Yeah, I was 3, actually. Well, they knew I could sing before I was 3, but I probably sang in front of the church for the first time at 3 years old. I tell people music is my first language. So my grandmother and my aunts, they all said that when I was in the crib, they could hear me at like 9 months old humming before I could even talk. So music really is my first language.
Do you feel that, they used to call you Little Mahalia, right? Who's my favorite gospel singer of all
amazing,
time.
yes.
Please.
Yes.
Do you feel that the being a singer is like a gift, and that you can be taught to sing, but you can't be taught to sing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So do you feel like that's like truly a gift from God?
It really is a gift from God. I feel like, there are people that actually can teach you how to hold a note.
Right.
But it's something, music is ingrained in me. Like, seriously, I was at home cleaning out the garage the other day, and music is playing in the garage, and I realized I had given my entire neighborhood a concert by the end of the day because I'm in there and Anita Baker's playing and I'm just feeling it. But I feel it in my soul when I sing, whether I'm on a stage, whether I'm in the shower. I literally feel it in my soul. I feel like music saved my life. It was my therapy, and I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't have it.
I get it. And then to be a great singer like yourself is not just to have that feeling in your soul, but you can transport that feeling into somebody else through your, I could just cry. Okay, anyway.
That is a gift. It's a gift. It's also a responsibility, though.
Yeah, it is, I reckon. So, okay, moving on, we're going to speed through your career, and allegedly your first professional engagement was with George Michael?
It was with George Michael.
This is after Wham?
This was after Wham.
After the Wham days when he was solo.
I will be a father figure.
Oh, not father figure.
Yeah, this was father figure, George Michael. So it was at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I'm like,
Madison
Vlad
Square
and I were talking, I'm like, who
1992.
has a first gig at MSG?
MSG with George Michael, and how that I had all these guy friends who were musicians in church trying to be producers. They needed to get demos done. They couldn't afford to pay anybody. So they'd be like, Kelly, can you come through the studio and just drop this vocal for me? So I used to do that for my friends who were trying to become producers. Yeah. One of them ended up being heard by someone that was connected at Sony Music, knew Luther Vandross. They had him come and do the wedding of one of Luther's background singers, do all the music. And there were Sony executives there. So when George came into town, he wanted to hire a local group to fill out his sound for those big songs like Father Figure for these new arrangements. And they hired a choir in the city on the first night, and he hated them. He told them, find me somebody else. So on that second night that he was at Madison Square Garden, I got a call at 12 to be at the Garden at 3 to rehearse from 4 to 6 to be ready to go on at 7:30.
Did you know who with?
I did not know until I got there. Yeah. And it was probably good that they didn't tell me. They told me we're black and we're going on tonight. We're going to learn the stuff and we're going on tonight.
So did you like freak?
I did not freak out. It's weird. So growing up in church with my grandfather, who was such a prominent bishop in the Church of God in Christ, I grew up around the Clark sisters. I grew up around the Winans. I grew up around, Commission, the Walter Hawkins, Andre Crouch. So I grew up around people who in my world were superstars as far as church is concerned. Sure. So I learned how to move like that. And even if I was freaking out inside, how to just stay stone-faced.
Well, you were saying that somebody had heard you before, but somebody else heard you rehearsing one time too.
Pregnant and sick as a dog.
By the name of Mariah Carey.
Yeah, that was gig number 2.
That is crazy to start that way.
Yeah.
And she heard you and liked you.
Yeah.
and which is already great. And I guess you got introduced to what, Tommy Mottola?
That same day. So she heard me and she didn't want to approach me. She was extremely shy, extremely shy. Trey Lorenz, who was singing background for her.
I remember, yeah.
So she said, go over there and talk to that girl and see if you can get her to sing again. The choir, it was my friend, got hired again to put another group together by the music executives from Sony. So that's how we got the Mariah gig. I was first trimester pregnant with my son, sick. They broke everybody to go eat. The smell of food made me want to. So I didn't go to lunch. I stayed back in the room where we were rehearsing and sat at the piano and started to sing. And she walked in while I was at the piano.
So your piano playing, did you learn that as a child growing up in the church as well?
So everybody in my family plays.
Okay.
My mother played, her brother, her sister, my grandmother, all of my grandmother's siblings.
Oh, it's inbred. It's almost inbred.
In the family, yeah. So, and I didn't stick with it like my mother wanted me to. Because the teacher would, when they tried to teach me form and how to read music, I could play by ear, but she wanted me to learn how to read. And I was just like, yeah.
So Mariah, of course, has a rep for being a little diva-rific from time to time.
Yes.
Which, that's what divas do. They
I think so.
Diva-rific. How did you find working with her and working with her? Was it easy? Was it a little tense?
I was 18 years old and pregnant.
Right.
And really glad to have a job. I had a lot of fun.
How did she feel about that?
So once she found out, she was like, you're having a baby. Because there are only 3 years between us. Mm-hmm. So she was really young. Yeah. And we hit it off. Like, she wasn't doing a lot of hanging out. She wasn't going out in the clubs and that kind of thing.
Hang out that much anyway.
So I ended up spending a lot of time with her at home. Like when she wanted to hang out, if she wanted to do something, or even if, literally she wanted to go to a concert one night. And so she was like, I'm going to a concert. I want you to come with me. So outside of the job, I spent a lot of time with her like that as well. And so I was enamored with her gift. I thought it was amazing. I mean, later on I found out, that she was mixed race, but I'm looking at her and she don't look like anybody I know that sings the way she sings, right. But she's singing that. You know what I mean?
They said the same thing about Tina Marie.
So yeah. It was amazing to me. I felt extremely blessed. We had a lot of fun. We bounced ideas off of each other in the studio musically. Like a lot of times, she'd be in there and working on something. She'd be like, I don't know if I like that. Kelly, what do you hear? And so that's really what got me into beginning to arrange things, which I later started doing for people and getting paid to do it, because she actually trusted my ear. So a lot of times she would ask me.
On an unprofessional question, what did you feel about her being married to this older guy, though?
You know what? It didn't bother me.
He was older.
He was definitely older. He was definitely older, but that didn't bother me. I was like, is she in love? Hell, do they love each other? Like for me, to me it was interesting because again, there's only 3 years between us. But I was there before they were married. I attended the wedding. I was around for a lot, and I saw somebody who took really good care of somebody that he loved. And I don't know, perhaps maybe because my dad wasn't there when I grew up, maybe I kind of felt like shit. I wouldn't mind,
Yeah,
but I
everybody
likes
cool. a zaddy.
A zaddy, yeah. She had a zaddy, hell.
Like zaddy. So when you were pregnant, were you married at the time?
I was not, which was
But was this your future husband's child?
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm. It was.
So you say it was woo. Was this with the family, the church folks, or what?
We were both church kids and preacher's kids. His mother and his father was a preacher. My mom was a preacher. My dad was a preacher. He ended up leaving the church, and he had his own struggles. But then, I was really more concerned about my grandparents. I felt like they were going to be so disappointed. Yeah.
But later on, down the line, he started to manage you, correct?
He did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do you feel about, and I guess you can only speak on your own situation, but, I don't even have that situation. I got my own opinions. How do you feel about women artists who have husbands managing them or even, the parents, like Ashanti's got her mom, has always had her mom, and they've done well.
They have.
But everybody doesn't do well with the husbandager thing. So how did it work for you, and how do you feel about it? It
did not work well for me at all. And the thing about it is I feel like it takes a very special, a very secure man to be married to a woman like me. To be married to a Mary J. Blige, to be married to, and I speak about them because I know them, and they were in the same situation at one point that I was in. It takes a very, very special kind of man to be married to a woman like that, and to understand that you hold your position at home, but outside the house, it really is about your wife.
And what about, it would seem to me that coming home, it might be hard to turn off the business and just go into normal mode, right?
I actually was very intentional about that. And I'm extremely, you've seen me at home. I'm extremely, you've been to homes of mine. I am so I can't speak for anybody else, but I enjoyed stepping into the role of domestic because it's something that I always wanted. I came from a broken home. And so that was always very important to me, to create a space at home that felt like a home. So you know me, I cook, I clean.
Right.
I do all of that stuff. I ran bath water. I make beds. I do all of that, and I enjoyed it. So
because at some point you get tired of being in charge, and you want some soft place to land when you come home.
Absolutely.
But sometimes the person who is not the artist, they get more carried away with the doggone career than the artist does. But in management, I guess they would have to do that. It's a very fine line to walk, I think.
I described my situation. We were the artist and the rock star, and I was the artist.
Okay. Okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope the people do as well. Okay, so now you're starting to what Island Records, right? You got the deal.
Yeah.
And how long were you with them?
Not long, because they ended up being acquired. It was dissolved. I didn't make it through my first album, so I was signed to T-Neck, which is Ronald Isley's boutique label.
T-Neck. Everybody don't.
T-Neck Records.
These folks out here, these young folks, they don't know nothing about T-Neck, but I remember.
But I met him because I wrote for him.
Ron Isley.
Yes. And so he started courting me to sign, and maybe about 9 months to a year after him saying, I want to sign you as my artist, I went ahead and I did it. And he had landed at Island, so he took me to Island where Hiram Hicks was. And so it was great. It was the little engine that could. There was a small team. I think there might have been 30 staff members in all. But they bust their behinds. So when you think about artists like me, when you think about artists like Drew Hill, the entire team was 30 people. That's marketing, that's PR, that's A&R. That was the entire team. But they worked really hard.
When you did Soul of a Woman.
Yes.
That's your debut album?
Yes.
And were you on Island then?
I was on Island, T-Neck Island Black.
Okay.
Yes.
It debuted at number 15 on the Billboard charts.
On the pop charts, and
It went platinum.
Yeah.
It's your first
I think we're two now.
album.
We're 2 times now. The first
Two-time
one.
platinum.
And the single, if I can just pat my own shoulder, we made history with Friend of Mine because we went to number 1 with no video, and that had never been done before. People don't often say that. But
you can't even do a song without a video these days. And so the song is about a woman whose husband cheated on her with her best friend.
Yes.
Not uncommon.
Right.
Produced by Stevie J.
Stevie J, Anthony Dent.
J-Dub.
And J-Dub.
And also, didn't it have a feature by R. Kelly?
On the remix, yes. The remix was R. Kelly and Ronald Isley, which is historic.
So, having having worked with R. Kelly then.
Yes.
And he was on the road to becoming huge.
Yes.
And now, unfortunately, his demise, I'm going to say demise because he's under the jail right now.
Sure.
So how was your relationship with him at that time? Did he seem weird? Did he like, your little niece and stuff like that? What's going on?
You know what's crazy? So again, met him at Daddy's house. He had been listening to all the Puff stuff, and he asked him, yo, who's that girl you got writing all your stuff over there? Can you get her for me? So it was Puffy that called me. They were working on something. He said, hey, R. Kelly's in town and he's looking for you. You want to come through the session tonight? I said, sure. So that's how we got started.
Right.
And he started flying me out to Chicago to write. Oddly enough, even though he's older than I am by a few years, I took on a very older sister role with him. I was the one in the room if, I felt like he was a little whatever. It's weird. If he was, a little, I'd be like, come on, we got work to do. But our relationship stayed very professional. He never brought anything around me. And people don't believe it, but he never, ever brought anything around me. He never acted weird. He never tried to make a path. We very much so had a brother, like to the degree where we're working, it's 3:00 in the morning, he'll send somebody out for White Castle, eat 5 White Castle burgers and then lock the door and pass gas. So I can't, like, it was like that. It was very much so like that. So I wasn't exposed to any of the things that a lot of people say. Now, obviously, I heard rumors. I heard about different things.
Did you?
So I kept,
at that time?
I mean, I think we all heard rumors. We all heard rumors.
What were some of the rumors you heard?
Well, the rumors were that he liked underage girls. He never had any underage girls around me. But I knew his wife.
Yeah.
I knew the kids. I had spent time in the house with his wife and kids, all the way down to the last baby. When Drea had the last baby, and she wasn't feeling well and she was tired, I went to Chicago, went to the house, played with the kids, cooked for the kids. She was in the bed. So that really was who I was to that family. So I was not exposed to a lot of the other shenanigans. And I think that there was a part of him that understood that if I did see any of that, that I wouldn't be like somebody else and turn my head the other way.
How do you feel about him being convicted on these 9 counts now?
I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And I would say this, for as far back as the allegations go, and to know that there was a trial that he was acquitted in many, many years ago, if that was the behavior that he was partaking in and he continued to do it, when I go back to how I was raised, we were always taught that a warning comes before destruction. So
what sickens me is, he didn't do it by himself.
And that's the other thing I'm going to say. So in this business, and nobody really wants to talk about it, in this business, that's not odd. That's actually the culture. It's the culture. And now that I have seen that culture. I've seen mothers bring their daughters backstage.
Well,
and that's the thing that nobody wants to talk about.
That's the dirty part of it.
Yeah.
Is that every victim had a parent who was anxious to help them get into the
lifestyle,
business.
Get into the business, make some money. And it's unfortunate that young girls, they say that girls are so unprotected. Young women of color are extremely unprotected.
Extremely.
And in a lot of instances, I've seen, and I won't even say with him, I've toured with some of everybody. I've seen the mothers come to the shows in twin outfits with their underage children and trying to get backstage. So I think that if we're going to ever really hit that, then you got to go after everybody.
That's right.
You have to go after everybody. You have to go after the people who have helped them.
Sure.
Don't cut a deal with them and tell them if you give me him,
that you'll be okay.
That you'll be okay, because I'll say this.
Because they're as guilty as he is.
They're as guilty as he is.
If they booked the ticket, if they flew him out, if they picked him up at the airport,
and trust me, they did, because he
was
wasn't getting on the phone, calling the airline, booking a ticket.
That's
he wasn't,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So there were a lot of people involved. I remember watching Michael Jackson's trial and seeing the cook who says that she would get up in the middle of the night to bake cookies from scratch so that she could bring them to the children in the bed with Michael Jackson, and they would be having picnics in the bed. Now she's testifying. You didn't think that was weird? The first thing I said to myself is, why was she not?
But I just, Michael Jackson fan over here.
I am too.
And I just do not, when other people come to I'm a girl, so I don't know. Because I was going to say, other people come to my house or they can leave their kids in my house. We might be all in the bed.
Right.
We might be eating popcorn, watching movies.
Right.
But then again, I'm a girl too.
But this is the thing. If you know that there have been whisperings about that, or if I just feel like nobody can there's not any person that can do something so elaborate and so well orchestrated for so many years and not have a team that's assisting in it. And I'm going to take it a step further and say that, well, hell, I ain't signed to a major label. The people at Jive knew what the hell was going on. And they helped it. They know, they find out what your weakness is. They find out what your poison is. I can remember being in a session early in my career after I became an artist, and an A&R from Def Jam, because this is at the point when Island had been dissolved and taken over by Def Jam. They sent an A&R to the session, which I wasn't used to because I A&R'd my entire first album.
Explain to the people what A&R is.
A&R is artist and repertoire. Basically, their job is to help connect the artists with producers and pick songwriters and that kind of thing. But I was a producer and a songwriter, so I never used an A&R. Mm-hmm. So to play nice in the sandbox with the new team, they wanted to send someone into my session, so I said yes. Day one, the A&R said to me, "What's your poison?" And I looked at him like he was crazy.
Like, what do you like?
What do you mean?
What can we get for you?
And I'm still a little green or whatever. And in my mind, I'm going, I know he's not asking me. But, I wanted to see where exactly he was going. What are you talking about? What do you need? Tell me, what do you need? You need weed? You need blow? You need alcohol? What you need? I'm like, I need you to leave. Because these are the same people when you're laid out and you can't hold it together and you can't hold a note anymore and you're no longer important to the bottom line. They'll be the ones that will make all kinds of comments about how, she was so good when she got started, but, she just got her. No, you brought it to her. You brought it to him. So I was always really intentional about making sure that I worked this as seriously as any other job or career that I would have had outside of entertainment.
Do you think not being a party girl held you back at all?
Yes, it held me back a whole lot.
That's deep. Okay, well now let's scoot on to Heartbreak Hotel.
Yes.
I loved the video. I was so jelly. First of all, loved that turquoise coat or
yes,
whatever.
The leather.
And
I was a big girl. I had to dress that body.
You was big. You was big then.
Yes.
But that's you, Faith Evans, Whitney Houston.
Yeah, my sister.
Who did you meet first, Faith or Whitney?
Faith and I met as teenagers in a church, both singing on a program together the very first time. The very first time. I didn't meet her again until fast forward years later when she was signed to Bad Boy and I was over there writing.
Because you both had writing credits.
Yes.
Before you even became an artist.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you still get money from all that writing, don't you?
I do. It's a blessing.
Ka-ching. Okay, so then when did you meet Whitney?
Met Whitney because Whitney was riding down, this is the story she told me, riding down Jersey Turnpike 95, headed into the city, and my song came on the radio. This is when they were playing the song, and there were no photos of me, just my logo with the KP and the glasses.
Yeah, they would do that.
And they wouldn't say my name either. Mm-hmm. So she said she's riding down the Jersey Turnpike, and she hears, doo-doo, doo-doo, she was a friend of mine. She said, girl, I almost crashed into the median.
Yeah.
She said, and I stopped. She said, I pulled the car over, and I stopped, and I listened. And I said, that girl that's the Lord. That's the Lord. So she made, for her, it was a phone call. And that's how she found me.
Well, how did the three of you decide to get together on this song, do this video? And let me check my stats.
Yes.
You want to give me the stats on what happened with, let me see. Number 2 on the Billboard. Mm-hmm. And you guys were in the studio together. Did you record on the same day? Were you together?
Did.
You did?
We did. Whitney put it all together. It was her idea for us to do the song together. We went out to her Jersey mansion. She had another property on the land, mm-hmm. A second house, which she completely gutted and turned into a studio. And so it had little artist suites in there. So we all came, brought our glam with us. She had cameras rolling that day so that she could archive everything. Faith had a suite, Whitney had a suite, I had a suite. We got all dolled up, came out, recorded the song that day. And there are lots of pictures. I need photos.
I'm like, where's that footage?
It's somewhere.
If you're out there and you have that footage.
Ulysses, we need the footage.
Hey, we need the footage.
Yes.
We need the footage,
we need
babe,
the footage.
behind the scenes.
Yes, yes.
So, let's just fast forward a little bit so we can get out of the Whitney chapter.
Yes.
I was supposed to be at that party.
You were supposed to
Jason
be.
Lee had invited me,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't go.
I wish you would have been
And
there.
I wished I had went, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We all remember the iconic moment when Whitney came on stage and was singing, "Yes, Jesus loves me."
Mm-hmm.
To you.
I was so surprised because I would have never asked her to get on stage. I wouldn't have put her in that position.
Yeah, and then Whitney's so crazy. She sang, "Yes, Jesus loves me," and had a fight with a chick the same night.
So I'm going to speak on that because I was really angry about how that went down.
Let's go.
That was my idea. We had this party and I wanted to celebrate music because R&B was really suffering at the time. And rather than it be about me, I wanted to celebrate the genre.
Right. It was for the love of R&B.
For the love of R&B.
Party. Right.
So Stacey Francis wanted to be a part of it. She wanted to sing. I knew her, I didn't know her well, but I knew her from back home in New York. She did Broadway, that kind of thing. She worked with a lot of people that I knew back home. And I'm like, yeah, sure, pick a song to pay homage to an R&B artist. So she was there. I had worked with her. I rehearsed her with my band. So whatever was going on, for whatever it was she tried to say was happening with Ray J, whatever the case may be, what I do know is that I had a section for Whitney. Whitney didn't want to be in the section. She said, I'm staying with you tonight.
Was Ray J with her that night?
Ray J was there, yes. And so...
Did they seem like a loving couple?
Yeah. I didn't see anything weird. I didn't see anything that was off.
Actually, low-key, I thought it was kind of super hot. That, Ray J finally had him a grown-ass woman.
Yeah, a real
And then Whitney
woman.
was like trying to get her little swerve on.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
But then, we just don't know.
So this fight did not happen. There was never any physical interaction. That's
there was
number
blood
one.
on her leg.
But what I can tell you, that was red wine.
No. It didn't look like red wine.
I promise you it was red wine.
Okay.
I promise you it was red wine. She never even, I had a whole section for her secured out. She never went to the section. She said, I'm going to stay with you. I was in the cut of the stage in the back.
Yeah.
With a chair and with a velvet rope between me, the stage, and the wall. She stayed there with me all night. That's the reason why when she came to the stage, she was so close. She came right from the back side of the stage on the ground. What I do know is that there were a lot of people when they realized she was there who were trying to get to her, including some of the other performers.
Wasn't Bobbi Chris there as well?
Bobbi Christina was there. She stayed behind the little velvet rope in the corner with me and with Whitney. And so Ray J was there, but not. He kind of worked the room a little bit.
Of course.
And he was back and he's been Ray J.
Yeah.
Back and forth, but they stayed with me in the corner. Her security was there. I don't remember, was Ulysses there? Pat was there. I had my security. My ex-husband at the time, he was there. I had my team of people there with me. So we stayed in the corner, and she literally stayed back there and cheered every singer on all night long, the people that she had never heard of before. And there was a lot of trying to come over to get to her, her. And even as far as, I wish Stacey would have told the truth. She kept coming up, Whitney, you remember me? You remember me? And Whitney literally was like, who is that? Who is that? And I'm saying, she's one of the performers tonight. Don't worry, we'll be okay. So I was aware that she kept trying to get to her. So it didn't go down the way, and I was really, really appalled that even in the wake of her dying, that in the need to have a moment and try to make it about you and to get, I guess, another 3 minutes of fame after you got kicked off the X Factor or whatever.
So, right, X Factor saying. So for the record, this statement goes on the record that was not blood on Whitney's leg.
It wasn't blood.
That was red wine.
So what happened was when things started, first of all, let's just say Whitney, y'all know Whitney is a Jersey girl. Y'all can say what you want to say about her. She kept it all the way real. She was very, very poised. But if you took her there, she went, and you didn't need an invitation.
Right.
If you tried to take her there, she would gladly show up.
That's right.
So there were glasses of wine. There was a broken wine glass because stuff started getting with it. Because Whitney's like, you know what? She's been trying to get at me all night long. Like, what's really going on? So Pat was like, we can't do this. We're going to leave. But before I knew it, like, wine is flying, that kind of thing. There was a broken wine glass. It was red wine. It was not blood.
What are your feelings about Pat Houston?
I have always had good interactions with Pat. So I know that I've heard people say, again, I don't know if it's me or if it's how people regarded me or perhaps because I only came around when it was time to work and I didn't do a whole lot of socializing, especially back then when my kids were younger. All of my interactions with Pat, a lot of the times it's just when Whitney was around, especially back then. So she was never right in our mix. She was around, but if you and I are somewhere and we're eating and we're drinking and we're having a good time and we're talking, if somebody from your team is there, they're not right there with us. They're around.
Sissy's getting pretty old.
Yes.
And slow.
Yes.
And so Pat is running everything now, is she not?
Yeah, she, I think pretty much always has been.
Yeah. She
has been. From the latter years from Whitney to after she died, she was made, I guess, like conservator, or she along with whoever is appointed by the court.
That's her brother's wife, right?
That's Gary's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. We're just going to let that ride right there.
We'll put a pin there.
Okay, so you're going to put a pin in that one.
Okay.
You also worked with Rodney Jerkins.
I did, before anybody knew who young Rodney was.
But was he even Darkchild at that point? I don't even know if he had that nickname yet.
So, I met Rodney when he was 15 years old. I heard about this young writer-producer. He had just signed, at the time, the largest deal to someone that young. His publishing company gave him like $1 million advance.
Okay, and then by 95, you're 18 years old. You signed a worldwide publishing deal with EMI.
Yeah.
At 18 years old.
No, at 17.
17.
I had to re-sign it at 18.
Oh.
I signed it at 17. There was a guy that worked for EMI Publishing named Brian Jackson, and he used to catch the train down to South Jersey, and he would come to my basement and literally be in the studio with me. My basement had like wires all over the place, and he would just be listening to the music. He's like, yo, man, I want to sign you to a publishing deal.
So Rodney Jerkins was how old when he got?
Rodney did his deal.
Wait, you met him at what? You said 15
years old.
And he was already writing?
And he was already writing and producing. He had just done the largest publishing deal on record at the time. And his A&R, his product manager at the publishing company reached out to me and said, I just signed this young kid. He's getting ready to be the next hot thing. He needs a lyricist. I want to put you with him. This is the thing, though. He's in South Jersey. He's only 15, get ready to turn 16 years old. He can't come into the city to work, but he has a studio. His parents built him a studio. If you write with him, you got to go to South Jersey. I'm like, I'm not going to South Jersey. Needless to say, I went to South Jersey.
Of course.
And that's how I met Rodney Jerkins.
Rodney says that he's been quoted as saying that Whitney was the greatest female singer of all time. How you feel about that statement?
I wouldn't disagree. I love Mahalia Jackson. I feel like they're in different pockets. But she was very unique. She definitely was touched by God. And she lived in a lane all her own. And I know that a lot of people have come, since her and tried to say that people have tried to assign that name, The Voice, to other people. But I think that we got to let that stay where it is. I've never heard anybody say about another young white Southern singer, he's the new Elvis. No, there is one Whitney. There will only be one Whitney. And we can all emulate and do whatever we want to do, but there will only ever be one Whitney Houston.
Well, off the script, I just want to ask you, because I know what I've gone through with my family, watching the progression and not at first really getting on board.
Yes.
How did your family feel when you got into the secular portion of your career, or that it was even happening? That you came from this and that you were signing, that you were writing. Oh, she really does have talent. You mean My Kelly wrote this?
Yeah.
And so how did that transition go?
I have had different experiences. There are some family members, like my grandparents per se, who really were more concerned about my soul. They're like, you gonna get out there, and you gonna get into sex and drugs and rock and roll, and you're gonna lose your soul and blah, blah, blah. So again, I've always been overly sensitive about my grandparents, never wanting to disappoint them. And so I always kept a very open communication with them. Like, listen,
and that's how you avoided the sex, drug, and rock and roll?
No, I just had no interest in it. Well, my dad was a drug addict. And he died as a result of that, only to, fast forward X number of years, my baby sister, the same thing. And so, she was, seen it. Yeah, so I had no interest. I didn't want to be poor anymore. So I'm like, hey, they're going to pay you good money to do something that you get up and do for free every day and every time you go to church. So I had no interest in doing that. With other family members, because everybody is talented, there was a bit of a rub. Some people felt like because I stepped outside of the church. Others felt a type of way because it wasn't them. And
that's always a hard transition for a church girl to go into the secular, the secular world.
Yeah, but I say if God gave me the voice, am I only supposed to sing on 123rd Avenue in Southside Jamaica?
Well, okay, so now you made a second album, Mirror, Mirror. Mm-hmm. Okay, debuted number 5 on the Billboard, also went platinum.
Yes.
Where you got all your platinum records at, Kels?
Lord Jesus. Some of them are on the walls in the house. Some of them are in storage.
Because you haven't been in this new place for that long.
No, but I do have probably about 30 of them up on the wall.
Ow!
Thank you, husband. I sat up one day and was like, can you put that there? Can you put that there? Can you put that there? So I have like a whole gallery.
I'm coming over.
Yeah, you have to.
I will see that.
Yes.
And now, okay, so what was it like having 2 platinum albums now? Like
surreal. Because because
it goes gold first, right?
Yeah.
Then it goes platinum.
Then
it can go, what, diamond?
Double platinum, triple platinum, and then it goes all the way up, and then once you hit 10, it's diamond.
Good Lord.
So, it was very surreal because I heard the chatter, and in some instances, it wasn't chatter. It was just people boldly saying, that girl ain't gonna sell no records. Do you see what she looks like? And so I heard a lot of that. And so I have to honestly say I'm really, really grateful for people like Ed Woods, he was my first lawyer. He died a couple of years back. Ronald Isley, Hiram Hicks, they all stayed in my ear. And they would say things to me like, there are more women in the world who look like you than don't.
That's a fact. And we're coming to more of a acceptance for that now,
Yes.
even though people still do
Yes.
quite openly fat shame.
They do.
Do you think that your weight at that time held you back at all?
Once we splashed, a lot of people felt that it would, but once we splashed, it was the thing that pushed me.
How so?
Because we proved everybody wrong. And then it was, I remember taking a meeting at Epic Records with an executive, and I don't even know if I've ever shared this story with Jill, but she had a demo cassette tape that they had at Epic Records, and I sat in an office and they played this cassette for me, and I'm like, oh, she's dope, who is that?
Jill Scott, we're talking about.
And it was Jill Scott. And they told me it's this girl out of Philadelphia, she's dope. She kind of got an old soul or whatever. And we're trying to figure out, well, where would we put her? I'm like, what do you mean, where would you put her? Let her live in the lane that she lives in. And then they were telling me, well, she's heavy. And I'm like, what? We did this already.
Yeah,
we did this already.
they wanted the video. They want music at a point became less about the music and more about the aesthetics.
Everything.
I feel, and about what the video looked like
Absolutely.
and what you look like and what you're gonna wear and all this kind of stuff. But your voice is so undeniable. I do feel that if you're undeniable, they really cannot deny you.
They can't deny you. And so look at Jill. Like literally, I remember sitting in the office going, I don't understand. What's the question? What's the pause?
And now Jill is like the template for sexy.
Oh my God.
Now Jill is like, big juicy girl, what everybody wants. It's changed. I'm very glad
and not
to see
ashamed
that.
to say that they want it because they wanted it back then.
They wanted
just
it,
didn't
and they
wanna
always
say-
want it, but they don't want nobody to know they
don't
want
want
it.
nobody to
Hello
know.
out there, athletes who don't want nobody to know you date big girls on the low. I wish I could show you my DMs and show you what's up in my DMs.
Okay,
honey.
we'll do that when we
I'm
finish
old
this
and
interview.
thick, so now there you go. Okay, now let me ask you this: the single "As We Lay."
Yes.
Now that's not the one that Shirley Murdoch.
It
sang?
is. It
Okay,
was a cover.
I was trying to talk to Vlad. I said, well, this has got to be the one that Shirley
is.
Murdoch sang because that put her on.
I used to sneak and listen to that when I couldn't listen to R&B music in the house growing up. I used to sneak and listen to that one. And I always said, I'm going to sing that song one
And I
day.
remember Shirley Murdoch back in the disco days in
Yes.
San Francisco. She used to come out there and just sing.
Yes.
And she was a thick girl too.
Yes. Yeah.
See, and she went
She
on
did that though, didn't she?
Nominated for a Grammy.
Yes.
Another song about cheating.
Yes.
Did you write that, Kelly?
Which one?
As We Lay.
No, As We Lay, Roger Troutman wrote.
Oh.
For Shirley, and I covered it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My bad.
Yes.
At 2016, she performed at Indiana Black Expo's Gospel Explosion.
Yes, and they tried to come for me, girl. Do you remember that?
You caught hell for performing a song about cheating at a church event.
Yeah, so let's just go. I'm going to need, first of all, for Black people to start doing things on real time and not CP time. It was them trying to revitalize and bring back, because Indiana Black Expo was huge when I first got started. They were trying to bring it back. So I had
Is this
a friend.
like a gospel essence festival?
No, it's not a gospel anything. It's just it's a weekend thing where they do everything. And back when I first started doing the Expo in the late 90s, they had different stages. It was the first time that they brought it back, so everything was on one stage. I was the last performer in the R&B show on Sunday, and then it went straight into the gospel show after I was finished, but they were running late, so there was no break. There was supposed to be a break in between.
So the gospel, the R&B audience, they stayed there. The gospel
R&B audience
came?
was still there, but the church people
Came
were
in.
filtering in because it was already time for the gospel part to start. They could have waited outside, but they came. I saw the church hats in the audience and everything, but I knew
Not
that
the
they
church
were.
hats.
Yeah, they came like from church or from brunch or whatever, and they came straight to the Expo Center, and they decided to sit in for the rest of the R&B show. They knew that the concert hadn't ended yet because I was closing out the R&B segment. I was really okay with it. The issue I had is that the young lady who was from the gospel radio station in that city, who I met backstage, you know how I get down, Lou. I'm that girl that's always gonna compliment another woman.
Yeah.
I saw her, I told her she was beautiful. I told her shoes were wonderful and that if I could fit them, I would take them off. We had
I know how you are about shoes.
a whole conversation. And when I finished singing, I was waiting for my golf cart to come get me. And she got on the microphone and started talking about me singing that song with all them church people in there.
Right after you had just been
Right
having
after
a
we had a
conversation
whole
backstage.
sister girl moment, and I hugged her and complimented her, and so I'm like, yeah, that's real church phony, not cool.
Right.
And so that's really where it kind of went off, because she was in a position to fix it if she wanted to, being the MC and saying, the other show ran late. We thank Miss Price. She closed out the show. Now we're going to switch over and get into the gospel.
And this was a dragging before there was Instagram dragging all that.
And I got dragged. When I made Hot Topics on Wendy, I said, dang, really? This is what I make Hot Topics for? So no, I never perform. I would never do that. I'm a church girl. I'm a preacher's kid. I would never, ever do something like that.
Yeah, it's like when, when you entered into the reality realm.
Yeah.
Right, and thought that this might be a good vehicle for you to.
God, did I not learn?
That was really tough. Period.
It was.
It was tough to even be your friend and hear what people was saying.
Right.
Because it didn't shed a good light, and people who didn't know you had that impression of you, and it was really, really sad and hurtful.
It was.
And I know that you took a real deep look at ever doing reality again.
I did. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I know what it is. I blame...
The people don't know, but they don't know that we might
be
got
doing
a little
something.
something. Yeah.
I pride myself on being a student and learning what I'm about to embark on. And I took the word of the people who came to me about the show and didn't do enough homework. So when it shifted and they were pushing for the other thing, I was already in it.
Yeah.
I was already in it.
It was a mess. And
it was
you
a
weren't the
huge
only
mess.
mess, but you caught a lot of hell.
Well, you know what? Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and I'll leave it at that.
Come on now. All right, then. Now it's Christmas time. Well, I'm not sure when this is going to drop, but it is Christmas time right now. And you have One Family Christmas album.
Yeah, which, wow. Literally everybody that's on the title track for that song has passed on, with the exception of my oldest sister. My baby sister's gone, my mother's gone, my grandfather's gone, and we were all on my Aunt Celeste is still with us. So everybody else that was on that, I brought everybody in the family together to do the title track. And so, I can't listen to that song.
I was just going to say, do you listen to it?
I can't. It's too fresh.
It's too much.
It's too fresh, yeah.
Yeah, because Grandma just
she just left me
here.
Yeah.
Okay, 2003, Priceless.
Yes.
Number 10 on Billboard charts. Didn't do as good as the first two.
Did not. We were shifting again. Def Jam.
You left Def Jam after this album,
I did leave Def Jam after that album, but that album was both recorded and released in the midst of another major
Who was
change.
running Def Jam at that time?
So at that time, Leor Cohen left, and one by one, everyone that worked for him was leaving. So then Kevin Lyles left. Everybody that I had been working with on the previous album, one by one, were going over to where Leor was. And so now I'm here with a group of people. Lord, I'm having a L.A. Reid, brain fart moment. L.A. Reid came in and took over. And obviously, it's like, it's no different than if you have a coach coaching a team. If one coach leaves and another coach comes in, they have their priorities, have their favorites, they have their way of doing things, they have their, you know what I mean? They have what they have their eyes on and what they feel is most important. I was no longer regarded as the first lady of Def Soul anymore. And so, it ended up being that I left. And it was best because we weren't going to see eye to eye on what it was.
Now, when you say leave, do you have to finish a contract and leave?
It was mutual, so I didn't have to.
It was
I didn't have to, it was mutual. He was not interested in investing time or money in me, and I knew it. He had other priorities.
Sure.
And so it was better that we came to a mutual understanding that I would leave, because when it doesn't work out like that, if you have a person that's not interested in pouring into you, you can very well just end up sitting on a shelf for years.
Yeah.
So it was the best thing.
Yeah, that's in any sector, by the way.
Yes.
Even in comedy.
Yes.
Okay, so then you decide to do a live gospel album.
Yes.
Just like Aretha.
Yes.
And Mahalia.
Yes.
And all the girls like that.
Yes.
Shirley Caesar.
Yes, I was excited to do that.
Yeah, where did you do it?
Went back home to New York.
Did you go to your home church?
So the church that I started attending as an adult. As an adult, I left my grandfather's church and spread my wings and went and got, because growing up in my grandfather's church, everybody still talked to me like I was 8. and I'm grown with kids. So that's, it wasn't going to work. So the church that I attended, Bishop White's church, Little Zion in Long Island. So I went back to my church, but my grandfather and my grandmother were there. It was great because I went back to New York. I got to find that footage because I stuck the microphone in my grandma's face at the end of that concert and she wore the people. My grandmother was 4'10", and her voice was more powerful than mine in her heyday.
So then you, I think that you tipped up and linked up with Tyler Perry, correct?
Yeah, that was, what year was that? That was actually before the gospel album.
2005. Was that 2005?
I want to say we toured Why Did I Get Married?
But you recorded the gospel album, it looks like,
in 2005, and it came out in 2006. So I want to say I had already toured Why Did I Get Married in 2003 and 4.
That's what you worked with Tyler on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stage play.
How did you find working with him?
I had a
How
great
involved was he?
Yeah. So in the beginning, Tyler walked me through everything. I studied, I learned, I got it. It was the first time he had done a play that Medea was not in. Medea was the star of every play up until then. And so the weight was on me. He went and that's when he started delving into television and going and doing film deals. And we toured that play for almost 2 years.
Do you enjoy theater?
I do.
Would you like to do it again?
I would love to.
Do you want to go to Broadway?
I would love to go to Broadway. Broadway called, I would answer.
I know.
If Broadway called, I would answer.
I started off in theater as well. Yeah. And I really like it. But that 8 shows a week is a grind.
It's a grind.
And when you have to sing like that, you can't even go holler at the club because you got to protect your voice.
But
I know Layla Hathaway, she damn near whispers everything she said. Hi, hi. Like if she cracks up, she's like...
Layla's voice is like chocolate milk, whether she's singing or talking. Like I always tell you, her name is Chocolate Milk. Her voice is like chocolate milk.
Yeah, she's very protective of that voice.
She should be.
And yeah, when you have a voice as an institution like yours, you gotta, me, I got this old gruff voice. I used to sing like a bird, and I started hollering on stage and, check out my Can We Talk challenge.
Yes, I'm going to see it. I am.
Okay, so now moving on, lawsuits.
Lawsuits, which one?
Lawsuits are very painful.
They are.
Very expensive.
They are.
Very time consuming and very nerve wracking.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So somebody, I think the fundraiser you were supposed to do, nonprofit.
Yes. I wish they would update that because the people did get their money back.
Okay, because they filed a suit alleging that you took the deposit or whatever and then never did the show. Right.
So I sat in an airport. You can actually go to the Weather Almanac. I sat in the airport for 13 hours in Atlanta in the middle of an ice storm, and my plane was not allowed to take off. Mm-hmm. So, but they did get their money
So
back.
that makes missing the event.
I ended up missing the event, because my plane wasn't allowed to take off.
When it's an act of God like that, that's supposed to be a clause.
Since we're talking about, perfect, I do get a chance. So I did have an act of God clause, and which would have canceled out everything. But I actually just said to them, I know you have like 2 other galas coming up. We don't have to call it a cancellation. I'll come and do
another one.
I'll come and do another one for you. They initially agreed and then came back and said, no, we'd rather have our money back. But it was a force majeure because I literally sat in the airport for 13 hours and we were not allowed to take off.
Yeah.
So they were gung-ho to do it, and they said that they were going to do it, and they actually threatened to do a smear campaign, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do. But I fought it on principle, because if you can do a contract and something like that happens. When I got sick with COVID, I missed several shows. I had a promoter come after me after that. Yeah. I was in the hospital dying the day I was supposed to be on stage. I offered a makeup date. He didn't want it. So, with that in mind, I'm going, then it's a force majeure. Like I was laying in an ICU bed.
Look, shout out to me for being the friend who knew where you were, who knew what you was going through. Yeah. Never said a word.
Yeah, I appreciate
Kelly's
that.
missing. I'm like, I just talked to Kelly 10 minutes ago in my head, but we kept that down. Why were you so secretive about having COVID?
It wasn't that I was being secretive about having COVID, because I actually was the one that broke the news that I had COVID. When it hit me, so I was home a little less than a week. My husband, who everybody knows, he's my husband now, no thanks to me being able to make the announcement,
Right.
got sick taking care of me.
Right.
And he got really sick as well. If anybody knows about the way that wave went in the Southeast over the summer, when I went into the hospital, they shut down visitation. Like, you could not come to men weren't allowed to come to the hospital with their wives having babies when I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So I was in the hospital, and I was unconscious for days, actually. My heart did stop. I was medically dead. They were able to resuscitate me. And baby, the wig that I had on when I went into the hospital, I said my wig had COVID. I looked absolutely... Now, my publicist said to me, can you just put up a video? I'm like, no, I can't put up a video. My wig is shifted to I can't do any of that. And so it got out of control. Unfortunately, and I just have to say that it is what it is, I almost got Britney Speared this summer. There was a conservatorship in play by a specific family member. And some of the family did fall out about it. I have a great aunt who actually had something to say to my sister about that and said to her, why would you do that?
They're the ones who started the She's Missing.
Absolutely. So my aunt literally, and so when I talked to her and she's like, I asked her, why would you do that? And her response was, if she dies, he gets it all. Now, I would have never wanted to put this out. My family has had stuff all along.
Meaning
but
your
my
husband? Prenup?
Prenup?
You got a prenup?
We have an understanding.
And when you were ill, you were also in the process of moving.
Yes.
Which was a drag.
It was a drag.
Like, stuff was packed up.
My whole house was packed up when I got from the hospital. I had boxes and stuff everywhere. And then my house actually ended up having to be my makeshift hospital room. They were trying to get people into rooms. I waited in an emergency room on a gurney for 3 days to get a bed in ICU.
That sucks. Well, now, then there comes the vaccination question.
Yes.
So, were you vaxxed? Are you against it? Are you for it?
I'm not against it for anybody. I'm not for it for anybody because I think everybody's situation is different. I am vaccinated. I would never want to go through what I went through ever again.
It was very serious.
It was really serious. I almost left
because I remember talking to you. You were talking like this. And I said, I wonder how long it's going to be before you're going to be able to sing because your lungs had got really seriously affected.
My right lung was fully diminished. My left lung was almost fully diminished. And so the work that I have put in over the last 3 months.
To even hear your voice now.
To be able to speak.
Is way different than what you were sounding like when you were sick. I know this for a fact.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's going to be probably a year before she could sing again.
It could have taken that long, but I literally I got vigilant, Lou. I was like,
what do you think were some of the things that helped you through?
Protecting my peace. I can't look out for everybody.
Henceforth, the disappearance.
Absolutely. I can't be the ATM machine, the person that you call the vent to every day.
I'm sick.
And I'm sick. So, people wouldn't have to notice if other people didn't put it out there. But the reality of it is that people are used to being able to call me for everything. And my life was on the line. I chose to live.
Okay, well, now let me ask you about your good friend Kanye West.
Oh,
honey.
Jesus. My good friend?
Your good friend Kanye, honey.
Okay.
So you were included in multiple songs on Kanye's album, The Life of Pablo.
Yes.
How the hell did you and Yeezy link up?
He sent someone to look for me. Like, I swear this happens all the time. Somebody
will put a word out. I got to find Kelly.
Yeah, his request was specifically for Ultralight Beam. It ended up being that I ended up on 5 songs afterwards. But specifically for Ultralight Beam, the request was, I need Kelly Price to bring God to the song. That was the message that I got.
How is Kanye in the studio?
A genius.
Really? You said that quickly.
Yeah, without a doubt. He thrives in that realm.
How do you feel about him going over to the gospel sect now?
I don't have a problem with it. I wish that he had someone who could mentor him in that space.
Do you feel that he has been troubled since his mother Donda passed?
I believe that.
Do you feel that he has had a proper mourning period?
I don't think he's ever fully grieved his
Me
mother.
neither.
And grief is ooh,
It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It can eat you up.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I wasn't familiar with Kanye's. I wasn't following his gospel career, and I had heard snippets of his choir.
Yes.
I knew they were out in the field. They were doing this. They were wearing that burlap or looking crazy or whatever they were doing. But when I heard his choir at DMX's funeral, it brought me to.
Did it lay you out?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I
He has
must
some
admit.
really good singers in that choir.
That is pretty amazing. I wonder, can he get nominated for a Grammy for his gospel album? I wonder.
He made.
they playing games.
Well,
'cause
we're voting right now, so
this
voting
should
is still
be.
happening.
You remember
We
the
won't know.
Grammy
Yeah.
Academy? Okay, that's great. Okay, so you have any fun, crazy Kanye story you want to share or anything like that? Does he eat like I heard like
He doesn't
Nikki
sleep.
likes what? Dried cranberries and nuts or something like that. Does he have any quirks in the studio?
He doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep. We worked seriously 19-hour days. I would go back to the hotel.
Is he
take a
manic
shower.
like that?
Yeah, he's when
Well,
he's in
manic.
it, he's all in it. And so when we were working on The Life of Pablo, he had 2 entire buildings going at the same time, maybe about 3 blocks apart. 2 different studios, like locked out, every room. It's like being in Vegas inside of a casino. You have no
So it's a
inclination
time,
of
no
what
windows,
time in there, no
yeah.
windows. Everybody's phone gets confiscated at the door. So after day 3, I was like, listen, I got a life and I got a family. I done been in here 3 days with you. We in here for like 19 hours at a time. I can't be without my phone. We're going to have to do something about that. At this point, if you don't trust me to be in here with you, I don't need to be here. But yeah, no, you have no idea. And we would come out and it's the next day and we've been in there 19, 20 hours.
He got like obsessed, I think. Don't you think that in this relationship, do you give Kim credit for like really trying? I think she really tried.
I think she did try. And it takes for somebody to be married to understand how complex marriage can be. So unfortunately, in our line of work, when people know your business or think they know your business, they're entitled and they feel like they have a right to speak on it. Nobody knows what happens inside of a person's house
That's the
24
truth.
hours a day, except for those people who are inside of the house.
True.
And so I'm always really careful to speak on somebody's relationship because you just never know what's going on in the house. I think that for as long as they've been together, for as long as they've been married, they have children together, knowing that she was married to a person who has been diagnosed with mental illness, that's a lot already. Then you've got the kids.
Okay, well, my question was when they had the 2, then they had the 3.
Yeah.
Then why would you go ahead and have a 4th child with somebody who's clearly a little detached from daddy duties and who is manically making a change in their life and going more toward the Lord and all this kind of stuff? Why would you have another baby, Kim?
I guess she figured because she wanted to. Who was going to stop her?
Who's gonna
gonna
check me,
her?
boo?
Yeah, who's going to check her? She can afford to take care of him. She take care. She
Without
can afford to
him.
take. Yeah.
But they don't have a prenup. Do they have a prenup? I wonder if they got a prenup. Somebody should
sure.
Google that. Because if they do not, then there's going to be Yeezy and Kim's tennis shoes this time next year for Christmas, I think, probably.
I hope they're cute.
We'll see. what advice should we give Kanye if he wants? I think he wants his family back. I think he wants to get
He's
back.
been saying that he wants his family back. I read a few days ago that when he did his concert here that she was there and that he actually made a plea from the stage in the middle of one of the songs.
They've got to co-parent for the rest of their life
They do have
anyway.
to co-parent.
And I don't know, this Pete Davidson little scrawny ass done slipped up in there, and I don't really understand that one, honey.
Listen, you never know. Again, we think we know people. We
That's
have no
because he
idea.
got a big thing. She done went from the brothers back to Pete Davidson. When was
Now
she
that
ever with
was
somebody?
surprising to me.
That's
I
what
was
I'm like, I
surprised.
don't
I'm
really
used to seeing them with
understand
brothers.
that.
I'm used to seeing him with brothers. That was a surprise. That was a surprise.
I could understand if it was that little sister, her, because she's a little rock star anyway, how she like and stuff like that. But Kim, and well, I wish them the best.
I want everybody to be
children.
happy. I want the children to be well adjusted and not to have to see crazy stuff.
Well,
and
it's too late for that.
Well, yeah. Well, you know.
Because that North is already on social media.
I saw and running through the house with her phone on what was it, Snapchat or Instagram? She did a whole live
but she
and
need
gave
a
a tour of
whooping.
the house. You know, that doesn't change. People don't beat their kids no more. Beat your kids.
That's what's wrong. That's why we got. And I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
Beat your kids.
Never mind, because I'll say enough stuff
That's
anyway.
the prescription. Beat your kids.
Okay, so now, not only were you working with Yeezy, but you done fooled around and got with, what, the Migos too?
So apparently...
What the heck, Kelly Price?
But that's the song. I didn't know anything about it until...
Wait a minute, that song say...
I'm not singing
She never
on
had
it.
a Migo night, I'm going to make her sing like Kelly Price.
Yeah.
So when your name is
singing.
mentioned in the song, how do you find out? Does somebody call you? Do they notify you? Do they have to have permission to use your name or what?
So, well, as a public figure, they do not.
Oh.
As long as it's not, I guess, in a defamatory way or whatever. It wasn't slanderous or anything like that.
No.
People have asked me, how do you know what the song is about. How do you feel about it? I feel honored. I feel like, first of all, they're another generation. I think I'm probably old enough to be them boys' mama, right? I think I am, or very close to it. They grew up in the South. They were raised by older family members. They heard Kelly Price music in the house.
For sure.
Coming up. And so to name a song Kelly Price and then put a line in the song that includes my name, that's humble. And the line actually is, she says she never had Amigos night. I'm going to make her sing like Kelly Price. So that's twofold bigging it up. He bigged himself up. He said, I'm going to give it to her so good, the girl going to sing like Kelly Price.
Kelly.
But on the other hand, what he's saying is, that girl Kelly Price can sing.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have you met the Migos?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
They're nice guys.
Very nice. Very nice. Very respect. And again, they're looking at me as that lady, I guess, who they heard singing
That's true.
in the house growing up. So, yeah.
You've been with the culture, Kelly.
Listen.
Okay, so, yeah, we already talked about that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and we know that they almost lost you, but you came back. Praise the Lord Jesus.
Yes, thank you, Jesus.
And you thanked everybody on your Instagram. We're very happy about that.
Yes.
Okay, now, your new husband.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long has it been now?
We've been married now over a year.
But you've known each other.
The first time we met was probably about 15 or 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no funny business going on. I was married back then. I met him actually after singing at his godfather's church.
Another church hookup.
He wasn't going to church. He heard his godfather told him Kelly Price is singing at the church.
And then you came to church.
So he came to church. He wasn't thinking about being in church, but his godfather knew that he would come to church if he knew that I was singing. So he actually came to hear me sing that day.
Mm-hmm.
I met him that day and didn't see him again until almost 3 years ago.
I rarely ever post my husband on social media.
Yes.
People didn't even know I've been married 20 years.
Right.
So when people, and you don't do a lot of, you had not done a lot of posting about your husband.
Right.
People make up stories when they don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. And at this point, I post him because it was put out there. And I did not post him because I'm ashamed of him. He's not my secret. He's my business.
That's right. Oh, you better write that down. Somebody write that down for me. Not my secret. He's my business.
Yeah.
As a woman in the industry, I am one.
Yes.
You are one. We've seen what happened with Faith and Stevie.
Yeah.
We have seen what happened with Whitney and Bobbi.
Yeah.
And do you think that it's harder for women in the industry to share their relationship than for men? Because the men in the industry, they jump from chick to chick to chick to chick.
They do.
Nobody says nothing about their girls. Mm-hmm. And then every woman, they seem to think that every woman does not have good judgment, that we're stupid, that somebody's out to take your money, and they never had any money, and then all this kind of stuff. Can you clarify for us right now, like what's the situation with you and your beloved? And
he has his own money.
Bing.
He had to court me.
How? I know that's right. How did it come about that y'all fell in love and he asked you to marry him? Or did you ask him?
Oh, I did not ask him. He actually staged a really, really incredible proposal. I had gone out.
Oh my God, it wasn't on Instagram. So how do we know?
No, it wasn't on Instagram because it was my business.
Right.
But it was beautiful. It was he sent me to go get my nails and my feet done and have a day of relaxation. And when I came back to the house, I thought that the power got cut off because it was completely dark and there were candles all over the floor coming in from when I pulled into the garage and opened the door.
Oh my God.
There were candles all over the floor, lined on the walls. There were rose petals everywhere, and all the way through the first floor. I lived in a 4-story townhouse, so all the way up the stairs, rose petals and candles. And then when I got to the second floor in the living room, there was a trail that led to the middle of the living room in front of the fireplace, and there was a big heart, all rose petals, and he was in the middle of the heart, down on one knee,
Naked?
with a ring.
No, not naked.
Well, close enough to it. Close enough to it. And,
Wow.
I said yes.
Yeah. So now you guys have been married how long now?
A little over a year. We just celebrated our first anniversary.
Is it still hot, fresh, and amazing?
Hot, fresh, and
He's
amazing.
cute. He smells good too. I told you he
smells
good.
good. He's cute, and I went completely the other direction. And people are calling me. I'm not a cougar. I
Girl, ain't
landed,
nothing wrong with being a cougar if you
but
was.
I listen.
Shoot, whatever floats your boat, honey.
The whole ship done sailed.
Oh, hello. So, is he managing you?
No, has no interest in doing that. But he is my greatest supporter.
That's amazing.
My greatest supporter has no interest in doing that. He always says to me, "Baby, so he said, and trust me, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You know what you're doing.
When
You've
she's
been
on
doing
the
it long
phone with
enough."
her manager, leave the room. Then
Yeah, he doesn't bother. And if he wants to talk about something like that, he's like, "Well, I just want to talk to you about." But he always says to me, "I would never tell you what to do. You've been doing this long enough. At this point, if you don't know what you're doing at this point,
that is the truth.
Yeah, there's nothing I can tell you."
Well, amen and thank you, Jesus.
Yes, amen.
And I say congratulations.
Thank you
on all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, now so I'm just going to wrap up with just a couple of more things.
Yes.
So we're back to traveling now.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Have you? Besides coming here to LA, have you traveled? Do you have any dates on the books? When do you think you're going to maybe perform again? How's the voice feeling? How's the lungs feeling?
So the lungs are feeling really, really good. I need to sing because I need to exercise my instrument. So my voice did get weak because I hadn't been using it. It's an instrument. It's like any other muscle in your body. If you stop working it, you got to build it back up. Yeah. So my lungs are at 100% capacity. I just vocal exercises with my vocal coach so that I can strengthen my muscles. But dates filling up on the calendar starting at the top of the year. But actually, I don't even know. Can I say it by the time this airs? Maybe you might see me. You might see me at a basketball game here in Los Angeles before the end of the year.
You got courtside. I want to go. I want to go.
You might see me at a basketball game here in Los Angeles before the end of the year.
Oh, say can you see?
Oh, say can you see?
Oh, say can you see?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Essence festivals and things like that, I think they canceled last year.
They did cancel last year.
I think they're going to crank back open maybe this summer, you think?
Maybe so.
Hopefully we'll see you on a stage
Pay attention to my Instagram. I do have dates popping up starting at the top of the year.
I think that the people will be very, very glad to hear you again, see you again, hear you sing again. You have an incredible voice that is in the zeitgeist of the culture, Kelly. And, you got one of them names like nobody calls you Kelly Price.
Kelly Price, yeah.
Kelly Price. No, like Kelly Price. Kelly Price.
Yes.
One word, Kelly Price.
It is one word, just all smashed together.
That's right.
Yes.
Hey, I want to thank you for stopping by the studio today. I'm very, very honored you let me do the interview.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope that people enjoy the questions that we asked you, and then we're going to say goodbye because then we can talk, we can kiki. Okay, yes. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.